In January, visits by Western leaders to Beijing are signaling a pragmatic recalibration in a fragmenting world order. Economic imperatives are trumping geopolitical posturing.
The world has changed dramatically. How we position ourselves in the world will shape our future for decades to come.
There are tensions in trade today in the world. We are against tariffs. We think tariffs are ultimately damaging.
This is not seen as a coincidence of scheduling, but a deliberate collective maneuver. The visits by Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, followed by those of Ireland, the Republic, Korea and Canada, stand as the most substantive chapters in this narrative, revealing a calculated shift toward pragmatic engagement with China, despite sustained pressure from the United States.
The UK's Keir Starmer epitomizes this mindset. Ahead of his trip to Beijing, Starmer told Bloomberg that the UK wouldn't have to choose between the US and China, as he heralded significant opportunities for British business. Moving beyond ceremony in Beijing, the outcomes were indeed concrete. Starmer's visit only ended an 8-year diplomatic freeze at the leadership level, but secured over £2.2 billion, or about $3 billion in immediate export deals. That's in addition to a projected £2.3 billion in market access over 5 years. The establishment of a new Chinese RMB clearing bank in London underscored a tangible deepening of financial ties. Finland's Petteri Orpo's trip, the first by a Finnish prime minister in 17 years, also yielded dozens of business agreements worth tens of millions of euros, focusing on green technology and digital innovation.
This Beijing momentum reveals a macro trend that transcends any single bilateral relationship. The US-led campaign to present a united front against China is showing clear features.
Polling data, such as the recent survey by the European Council on Foreign Relations, indicates not only a decline in trust in American leadership among emerging powers, but also growing ambivalence within Europe itself. This trend extends even to the so-called U.S. Western Hemisphere, where geopolitical pressures, such as those concerning Venezuela, have not deterred regional engagement with China. The visit by Uruguayan President Yamandou Orsi to Beijing this week exemplifies this strategic pragmatism, reflecting a landscape where economic priorities increasingly transcend traditional alignments.
The United States is no longer reliable, and China is seen as perhaps different ideologically, but extremely stable and growing. And, let's talk about the numbers. The cost of doing business is going up. And why? Because of Donald Trump.
Nations are reassessing the economic toll and increasingly exercising what some analysts call sovereign hedging, framing their relationship with China as a core national interest rather than a loyalty test to an alliance.
Given that the Trump administration is pursuing, almost in some cases, an America alone policy, withdrawing from the international system, putting up tariffs against allies. It does free Canada to pursue an independent foreign policy, and I would say that includes having closer relations with China. It's in our interests as a sovereign nation.
Trump is imposing high tariffs on the EU and has made it clear that he wants to decrease trade with Europe, and yet now the increasing protectionism and tariff threats in the US have pressured Europe to seek alternatives. Of course, China is the largest economy when you measure its GDP at purchasing power parity, or at market exchange rates, it's the second largest economy. So it makes sense that Europe is trying to diversify its economic partnerships.
Against a backdrop of sluggish global growth and persistent regional conflicts, China's vast market, integrated supply chain, and predictable policy environment have become rare commodities, assets of strategic certainty. And China shared this universal quest for stability at Davos 2026.
China has always been committed to generating shared prosperity with its trading partners through its own development and is focused on enlarging the global economic pie.
The 15 cooperation documents signed with the Republic of Korea, alongside the expanded trade commitments with Canada, underscore this trend.
Significantly scale up.
What's more, the Finland-China joint statement emphasized upholding the UN-centered international system while Britain sought coordination on global issues like climate change. This model prioritizes managing shared challenges over demanding internal changes, reflecting a growing, if often unspoken, consensus that the world is becoming multipolar.
In an age of profound uncertainty, the rallying cry of ideological blocs and values-based alliances is being diluted by a renewed focus on problem-solving and concrete outcomes. Countries are voting with their feet, choosing to engage with a China that consistently offers an alternative framework of open markets and developmental partnership. And the restructuring of the global order is increasingly being discussed at tables here in Beijing, not solely on confrontational fronts elsewhere.